So as a man that's here, a man that's watching this or is here live, a good man that wants to do the right thing, he's trying. I can read something to me in the past. I may have been making lots of mistakes, but I'm trying. And then I see my partner shield up, defensive, you don't accusations, you don't care, maybe personal attacks, like you're not even trying, or you didn't even try to do what I asked you to do, which we're thinking that's not true. So is a woman in that spot, is she expecting a certain response from him that we're just blind to or oblivious to, or is that a moment when she's just in pain and lashing out? What is she expecting? What is she expecting a good man to do in that moment?
Well, that can be two things. Let's say it comes from a really deep, painful place, the kind that started way before she met you. And it's kind of this.
I would so love for my wife to open up to me. She seems cold, distant, closed down. Our marriage isn't what I want it to be. And so I'm here to learn, how can I help her open up? How can I help her be more trusting and safe with me, not so closed down? That's what Cynthia and I are going to talk about here today on the C Note Show. I'm Jeff. This is Cynthia with Great Men Move Mountains, and we've been retired social emotional teachers since 2016 and been in private practice since that time, working with families and couples. And specifically, we work with men in trouble in marriage because they want to learn how to lead with safety and inspiration and intimacy. They want to know how to fix marriage problems as they come up or avoid them in the future. And that's what Cynthia and I talk about here on the C Note Show. Because not only is relationship a science, but it's an art. And we believe love and being loved is an art. If you've seen our stuff before, the Kingly Life Path framework of frame, safety, and leadership, the Stoic triangle of virtue, control, and responsibility, we talk about those in other videos. And Cynthia and I practice ourselves and we teach what we call level 3 relationship, deep conscious intimacy, not just instinctual desires and instinctual safety, not just healthy roommate communication, but intimate, deep conscious intimacy in marriage, in long-term relationship. Last video, we talked about I'm doing all the chores and it's not helping my marriage. So go back and watch that. That was our last call. And today, my wife is closed down and defensive. How can I help her open up to me? That's what we're going to be diving into. Motivations for sex and affection can be many different things, good, bad, otherwise. Spontaneous desire, responsive desire, obligation, wanting to give a gift of connection to calm anxiety about the relationship or to add playfulness to the relationship. And so the motivation of these things can be one of spontaneous joy, playfulness, desire, or they can be one feeling of, well, I really need to do this. I have to do this, or I feel cajoled. I feel pressured into doing this. And obviously, if you're here, you want this to be natural and desirous and positive and spontaneous, right? And healthy to build the relationship. From the Gottman Institute website, John Gottman, as a newlywed couple, this is targeted toward newer couples, but I thought it's very pertinent for today. He says, of course, I trust my partner, you might say. It's worth asking, however, about the basis for that trust. Do you trust your partner because they haven't let you down in any significant way? Is it because that trust has not yet been tested? Do you simply happen to be a trusting person? Is your trust based on some higher power or larger worldview? He asks. The reality is that trust is built slowly over time. The basis for trust is the idea of attunement, and he uses this acronym of attune: awareness, turning toward tolerance, understanding, non defensive responding, and empathy. And in many of the situations of the guys that we work with, whether it's our group coaching or questions here or my one on one coaching, many men think that these things are not happening and they want to know how to bring that or bring that back into their relationship, turning toward and understanding and non defensiveness, empathy. In the book by Dr. Nancy Dreyfus, Talk to Me Like I'm Someone You Love, there's many different scripts that you can use to begin a conversation, which I'm not going to share those here today, but it's based off of these three awesome quotes that I really loved from this book. When he showed her that she made sense to him, she felt loved, seen, and known. I'm going to ask Cynthia about these here in 1 second. Assurances are almost completely useless when you're feeling endangered, and let go of investment in your own self image and become very interested in little else but what's true in the eyes of your partner. No, I pulled these out because before I began this work many years ago, I failed in all three of these categories, right? I only knew what made sense to me, this first one. I only knew what made sense to me, and I was confused why it didn't make sense to her. Why can't she see this my way? Why does she have to be so difficult? And I made the second mistake of trying to assure her when she was upset. And when someone's upset, they're not thinking logically. And thirdly, I was thinking of my own, only really my own self image, what I thought was true, what I thought was going to be the best. And I wasn't in those moments interested in what was true for her. So, Cynthia, when a woman says, or when a man hears, she wants to feel heard and known and understood. And this first quote here, when he showed her that she made sense to him, she felt loved, seen, and known. Let's start there. And we're going to get into specifics here on this call today. But when he understands and she makes sense, even if it doesn't make logical sense,
Yeah.
when what she's feeling or where she's coming from, even if he doesn't like it, especially if he doesn't like it, that it makes sense and he's
Yeah.
not being defensive about that. Why is that so important for the space in between for a level 3 relationship?
Yeah, I mean, I know the phrase that the masculine showing that it makes sense is really ambiguous. Like, what does that really mean? And for the feminine, I would say one of the core seeds that blooms her resentment or her masculine shield is feeling like her partner, the masculine, even if it's far before you met her, has alluded to the fact that she doesn't make sense, that he doesn't get it. It makes her feel really alone. It makes her feel really powerless, even if she's kind of shielded that and is really loud and demanding and demoting. Uh, this is a really huge crux of a wound and something that she will pursue in many different venues of people who do make her feel like she makes sense. Even let's say that she's stuck on putting everything on social media. Why? Because she wants other people to say, yeah, you make sense. And that's kind of a hollow way to get it, but it really speaks to a deeper desire. Uh, Even though I know that kind of can come across as ambiguous. What does she really mean by
Hmm.
that?
So, what happens when she's starting to give up on him understanding, starting to give up on him understanding her and making sense of what's going on? And you said she shields that. What does that shielding look like?
Yeah, the shielding comes with a lot of thought processes and a lot of belief. She'll start first with, and I know this is incredibly painful, but she'll start first with you don't care. And I know that's an incredible misinterpretation of her, but she'll start with first you don't care, and then it will move into thoughts of criticizing what you can't do or refuse to do or won't do. And then it kind of turns into this, well, I'm not going to put up with this, or this makes me feel too much pain, too much vulnerability, too much powerlessness. And so the shields go up in order to try to remedy that feeling. I've even had dreams in the past of trying to get my voice heard, and it feels like plexiglass or trying to punch through water. And it's a symbolic dream, but that's how the feminine feels when it seems like her deepest truth is not being seen, heard, or understood.
Yeah. So, as a man that's here, a man that's watching this or is here live, a good man that wants to do the right thing, he's trying. I can read something of me in the past. I may have been making lots of mistakes, but I'm trying. And then I see my partner shield up, defensive, accusations, you don't care, maybe personal attacks, like you're not even trying, or you didn't even try to do what I asked you to do, which we're thinking that's not true. So is a woman in that spot, is she expecting a certain response from him that we're just blind to or oblivious to? Or is that a moment when she's just in pain and lashing out? What is she expecting? What is she expecting a good man to do in that moment?
Well, that can be two things. Let's say it comes from a really deep, painful place, the kind that started way before she met you. And it's kind of this hollow in her that she's looking to heal and fix unconsciously through you. If she has like complete unawareness or complete unwillingness to take any ownership of that feeling in herself, it will feel like no matter what you do goes into this great abyss and it's never enough. And in those moments, she may just need to vent it out because she's not really able to receive anything opposite of that. On the other hand, if she is some there is self-awareness, if there is some ownership of that feeling, and she's aware that what she's looking for is that you can, in your kingly way, kind of look through her eyes in your mastery of your own solidness and groundedness, can feel like, oh, that must, like I can feel like that would ache or hurt or make me angry too. She's looking for that empathy. But the trickster of that is that she's looking for your masculine empathy, not as if you were another woman, even though consciously she may think that that's what she's needing most.
So we'll come back to what is masculine empathy mean. We want to hear your questions. Definitely, gentlemen that are here live, or if you're watching this, certainly post into the chat. We want to hear from you. Let's take a step forward. If we simplify all of this, for her to desire more with you, for her to desire more openness, closeness, connection, for her to open up, any person, but we're speaking about your wife right now, there has to be emotional common ground first. And that can't happen if you are defensive. That can't happen if you're taking things personally. Now, yes, there's a place to pause or boundaries. That's not the topic of today, though. Today, it's, well, how do I begin? And we have to begin with emotional common ground before the flower is wanting or willing to bloom. She has to desire wanting to open with you. And that requires emotional common ground. Another way to say that is emotional connection. And what does emotional connection lead to? It leads to trust. And trust is a firm belief in the reliability, truth, ability, or strength of someone or something. So I don't have to have an outcome in mind, but I do need to know where I'm going or what my intention is. And again, in the past, I was just trying to deal with what I thought was the logical argument in the moment, right? I'm being accused of something. It brought a lot of shame inside of me. And now I'm getting upset and off to the races in a bad direction. And that absolutely doesn't build trust. And what I've had to learn are things that we're talking about here today and things that we teach in our coaching. So trust. Trust is not built in big sweeping moments. It's built in tiny moments every day, says researcher Brene Brown, researcher on shame and connection. Trust is not built in big sweeping moments. It's built in tiny moments every day. And this is what we teach here on this call and in our coaching. This is about a 1.5-minute clip of a behind the scenes conversation between Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck. And it's him trying to support her in this movie that she's making, that they're making together.
I don't believe it.
Okay? That is gonna fucking suck.
Always gonna be
fucking
scared.
dick.
You'll be scared.
So here's another little moment. She's complaining because the movie sucks, which it does. And the movie sucks. She's worried about it sucking. And here's Ben. Now, again, this is camera far away. Ben consoling her yet again.
Sucking till enjoy.
Because it is sucking till it doesn't.
Well, right now it's not finished. You know what I mean? That's the problem. But you got to discern between things that suck DNA-wise and things that just don't work
Well,
right.
DNA, I don't think it
Right there,
sucks.
that's all you need.
Dude, Ben Affleck's a cool dude. I've heard him speak a lot. I like Ben Affleck. Ben Affleck clearly has had his troubles with alcohol and things, but he just gave such good advice to her. Such good advice.
But
The
I
DNA
think
is right,
right
then all you
now
need
it
is
just
progression.
sucks.
No, it doesn't suck. That's wrong.
It does.
That's wrong. That's just inexperience. That you haven't done this process before.
I'm sorry. Award-winning director.
Well,
I'm sorry.
If I was doing
I'm sorry, I'm not an award-winning director. Wah, wah, wah. Oh my God, is that really? Did you guys take it that way? I think he was very honest in his real criticism, and then she had to mock him because he's being too
I'm
supportive.
sorry.
a musical concert,
She's not trying to be take all the attention. Not at all, is she? She's not at all like her
The
mother.
things when I was
if I was
21
in a
years
rock
old.
show,
I was winning awards at 21. Look at her mocking him. And then he's like, well, if I was
I will
doing
say
a rock
to
show.
you, tell me how this goes. Are you usually afraid of before you first perform?
Okay. He just said, are you usually afraid? Okay, let's pause there. Now, we could see this in many different ways. One, he's trying to be supportive by trying to change her view. No, it's not like that. This isn't done. It's going to suck until we make it good. And then he tries to support her. And so you could say that he's trying to fix it. So I want to ask you about that, Cynthia. And then on the other hand, she starts to be sarcastic. She's deflecting what he's saying. She's laughing. She's obviously uncomfortable. It doesn't seem like she's letting much in at all. So maybe they're both making mistakes. Maybe they're both trying their best. This is just one small clip of their life. And so we'll take it as such. But for sake of conversation here, Cynthia, what did you see? What did you see in this clip, good, bad, or ugly?
It feels like there could be two ways to look at this, because at first blush, we could fall into that normal, well, she's the feminine expressing a feeling like this, it just sucks. And she's scared about that, and she's probably being really hard on herself. And instead of him saying, oh yeah, and that makes sense. And I've been there too. I've had that fear that something sucked before. And just stayed at that level of resonance. And I'd be curious to see how she responded. But on the other hand, there's something in his energy that to me vibrates that a level of masculine compassion, because he's holding, I'm literally in her arms, he's holding space for what is. He's been through this process before in himself, and recognizing the part of being an artist or in this field. And he actually is addressing a deeper wound in her by saying, hey, is this the DNA of what you're trying to produce, or is it just the details haven't been all fixed yet? And that really allowed her to go into a place of, no, the DNA is good, as in, no, I'm good. My core, I believe in my core. And I'm struggling with the very feminine anxieties of all these little things and how I'm afraid people are seeing me.
He's trying to see the bigger picture of what's actually good and then excavate what she's feeling at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about when she laughs and is defensive and starts to be sarcastic? Again, this is just one moment, but for the sake of conversation, what are you seeing there? What if a woman does that all the time? What if it feels there's a man watching this or a man here that feels like she's continually deflecting or making light of it or sarcastic or throwing something back in his face? What's that about within the feminine?
Well, I would say if you don't normally see this in a woman's response to you, and it's a newer energy, it's a really good key insight to like, oh, maybe this is the first time she's sharing this kind of pain, this like self-doubt, and just the hearing, I just need to hear in that mode. But if it's a pattern, gosh, that's such a, I can't take in his masculine heart that he's offering to me, and it's almost it's more comfortable for me to stay as victim, and it's more comfortable for me to be polarized in myself, like I'm good, I'm bad, I'm good, I'm bad, and right now you're making me feel like I'm bad. And so I'm gonna push back against that.
So the key there as the man in that spot is to not try to be fixing it in that moment, to take everything slowly, to slow down. So let's step forward. We definitely want to hear your questions in the chat for the men that are here live too. So let's get into the 4 points from Cynthia and I of the kingly life path, how we look at this, how we teach this. My wife is closed down and defensive. How can I help her open up to me? If you want to see more of our stuff, by the way, greatmenmovemountains.com. If you want to get on the list to how to join these calls live, get our upcoming book, know about our videos that are coming out, and be notified when we have new videos that come out, new teachings, greatmenmovemountains.com/new subscriber. So go to our website, greatmenmovemountains.com, and check out our stuff. So number 1, my wife is closed down and defensive. What can you control about yourself That's certainly all that you can control. The Stoic triangle that we teach almost every one of these calls and in my one-on-one coaching and our group coaching, the Stoic triangle, to be curious, unattached to outcome, and have a benevolent heart. And we're going to speak about what that means. How do I have a benevolent heart? What does that mean? It's easy to say to be curious and unattached to outcome, but you must do your own work first. That's why your own work as a man is so important in this. That is all that you can control. She has her own agency, number two. And so you must respect her agency, that ultimately she will do what she wants. So if a man in the back of his mind, in the back of his heart, thinks that he's going to force something on her, or I'm going to say the perfect thing and then manipulate her into my way of being, how does a woman feel that? What does that feel like to her if a man truly doesn't respect her own agency, that she's going to make her own choice? What is that like for her?
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine different women would describe this in different ways. But let's say a core struggle of the feminine is to feel her own agency because her very nature is to be more watery and swaying toward others. And so if there is like your strong masculine presence, which you hold incredible space, incredible power within you, and there's a, I'm going to get something out of this, or I don't feel like she has agency, she will feel like disempowered, and on an energetic level, it it feels like someone's coming in and reaching and trying to take something out of her that she's clinging really hard to.
And if you as a man, if you feel there's a hole within your own self that she has to fill, it's her job to fill this hole within you. That's what leads to this feeling of, what is it, desperation? What other words would you put on it, that it feels like she has to do this, otherwise I don't feel good about my own self, that I'm taking from her?
About what she feels on that.
Yeah, what does it feel like to her? Disgusted, as we've heard that word before.
Well, it feels like her. So here's where the whole like uh, even our culture is, I think, off base with talking about your boundaries. Literally, for her, it feels like her energetic boundary. That's a good thing that she needs in the world is being circumvented. And so instead of recognizing that as a, ooh, I wonder what the masculine's wanting to get from me, or, ooh, part of my femininity is to feel energy come into my space. She really can get on the bandwagon of you're not respecting my boundaries, you're not respecting my space, and that manifests completely in the physical shutdown. I don't want you to have access to my physical body, which is very painful to say, but let's say that's her way to be in control of what this energy feels like.
So let me ask maybe a harder question. So let's say that a man and woman are going along and he's giving into the relationship. And then one day there's a bit of an imbalance where he wants more, or she feels distant and shut down. And he takes that badly and then presses her about it or blames her, and she steps back again. And now we're in this dynamic where it feels like he's chasing.
Mm.
He feels like he's chasing. He's trying to do the right thing. Okay. And we're teaching to slow down. Okay. Take your own space. You have to have your life filled with your own hobbies and friends, which we've talked about. But then it doesn't feel like she's coming back to open again. He's inviting, he's given her time, he's given her space, and he's inviting, but she's staying closed down. What else does he need to consider there in the dynamic? Something that gets fleshed out with men that we work with.
Well, I happen to believe that it's very human and normal for in relationship to have those moments of, I mean, she comes to you with stuff. She's reaching in and trying to get something. I mean, we are all the product of this journey that brought us together. So that's, I think, allowed. The problem is, does she have any stamina with that? Maybe she's projecting back onto you. If she feels like that kind of shift in energy has happened, and you notice it, it's probably happened a lot more than than you in your masculine mind is aware of. Just like women on the other side of the spectrum that you can feel as like really needy or clingy, or there's just something off or gloppy about their energy, they're also pretty unaware of this constant energetic ask.
Well, that's one reason that you're here. That's one reason we bring this stuff to the men, is so you can get feedback from men that have an unbiased opinion, that have your best interest in mind, that aren't knee deep in it or neck deep in it like you are in your own relationship. That's why you're here. So respecting her agency, that she's going to ultimately do what she wants. That has to be something that's a truth that has to be real to you. And it wasn't real to me in the past until I did this work. Number 3, inviting her into small moments of emotional common ground. We've spoken about that in other calls, and we could certainly answer questions on that, of examples of small moments, inviting her into small moments. But certainly there has to be these other pieces there first. And 4, let's talk about this for a moment. And we want to hear your questions. Absolutely. So number 4, benevolence in your mind, heart, and soul for her. And when I wrote this, benevolence is what? Benevolence is well-meaning and kindly. It's servicing. It's a service rather than trying to pull something or make profit from it. The definition, serving charitably rather than a profit-making purpose. So not just for your own self. You're not trying to just get something from her. You're well-meaning, regardless of whether she is with you or not. You want the best for her, regardless of what's happening in the relationship. So talk with us now, what you said earlier, masculine empathy in terms of in your mind, heart, and soul for her. What does that mean to you? And then we'll go over to questions from you guys here live.
Yeah, I think it actually brings me a lot of emotion to even think about that energy that you offer in that way, and that really comes from whoever is in front of you, whether it's the feminine in her or children. There's a belief in them, there's a belief and a kingly eye that everything's going to be okay, no matter the emotions in the moment, and that's something that you hold close to you while you are resonating with her truth. And it doesn't even have to be, if not, it's more powerful to not necessarily share with her everything's going to be okay. It's you know that yourself in your kingly eye, and what you hold true in yourself, while understanding like, oh, she's in it in the moment. And that just really touches my heart, because so let's say in the masculine, if I've interpreted them as they get scared by my emotion or mistrust me because of my emotion, that just sends my whole nervous system into a pattern of, oh, now I'm really sure that the world is really scary, or now I'm really sure that I am bad, or now I'm really sure that the worst fear, the worst pain is real, versus the opposite, which is like a stamina with emotion, like, oh, this feels really hard, but I just have this feeling with this person, with this man, that everything's okay, and he believes that for me, for us, for the space I inhabit.
Thank you. That's really well said. The basis for your masculine frame for safety in the relationship is you welcome challenge. You know that life's going to be hard at times, and you're okay with that. And like I said, I had to learn this as well. The nice guy, Robert Glover, thought that life would be perfect if I did everything right. And that's not masculine frame, actually. That's crossing our fingers. That's avoidance of danger. That's avoidance of challenge in our life. And I had to come to the grown wisdom understanding of that I want challenge in my life. So come on in. When you say examples of stamina, frame the question for us. How do you mean?
Oh, I'd have to see that list you posted a minute ago. But you said number 3. Oh, we'd previously, given some examples in the past. I haven't heard any. I was just curious I'm sure I know what you're talking about, just not totally sure. You say small moments of emotional common ground. What do you mean by that? I
Yeah,
probably know what you're speaking to. But
yeah, many men that I talk with think it needs to be some giant moment or a big date or a trip around the world that goes perfectly. And really, it's the
oh yeah,
opposite. Yeah, it's the opposite. It's coffee in the morning. It's watching the sunset together. It's a smile
Little
when she
human
first
things.
comes home. Right. Many of my clients, I give the literal homework of when you first see her in the day, and then when you first see her after work, so twice a day, take 30 seconds to drop everything else that's happening in life and just go be there with your woman. See her as your lover. Just smile with her or greet her. Put down whatever it is you're doing because that's what you did. That's what you did when you first met. She is your lover. You have to teach her, teach yourself, and teach her that this is a moment for the two of you every day in the morning and every day after work, because that's what this is about. Why do this otherwise? So that is that ring
Right.
true for you?
Yeah, but I would also ask to follow that up with what does that look like if you're dating? Just a little text or
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, where are you right now? What have you tried? What kind of responses are you getting?
well, right now I'm in a lot of my own growth. I'm very much so embracing the discomfort of life, shedding the nice guy, working to separate myself from anybody else's problems, not just hers. And realizing that in that I don't have to become part of the equation to understand it. I can just let people feel their feelings. I think that has caused, along with other environmental factors on her side of her own life experience, I think that has caused a great deal of challenge for her. And so she's very closed down right now. I see most of it as a test, but I'm also sitting here going, well, it might be the end, which is okay. I'm very open to it, to fighting for it. I'm very open to it ending. I don't mind either way. But with that context, I mean, just in the dating context, it's fine because I'm in a little bit of a deeper situation. But to answer your question of where I'm at, that's where I'm at. So that question might not be quite as relevant with that in mind.
Well, yeah, that's well said. And I know you and I are going to talk one on one soon. So we'll speak about your specific situation as far as should I text, should I not text? To segue of what you're talking about, it's important to know what you believe about yourself first. And that's what you're saying is that I have to be grounded and calm and assured in myself. And then I'm able to show up with curiosity and empathy and communication. How did you learn that about your own self? What's the opposite? What's the opposite of self-assured and calm and grounded? What happened in the past?
Yeah, well, when you're first starting this work, and when I was first starting this work, you want answers, answers. Give me the answers. Give me the tools. Give me the one, two, three. And you try these things, like you were saying earlier, Jeff. You try them, but they're not really coming from you haven't put in the work on yourself first. And so I did a lot of that. When your hair's on fire and you just want to fix things, you just go into doing mode. But I had to just pause, just put everything on pause, and I had to give her space, and I had to focus on myself. And I really did a deep dive into myself, took several online courses. One of them was with you, Jeff. And it wasn't until I got really clear about myself that things started to change.
That's awesome. So take us from there. When you start, then you feel calm and grounded. She doesn't just magically change overnight, right? It takes time. So where are you now? Where are you now in this work?
Yeah, so I probably most of you don't know my story. Maybe I'm not even sure how much you know, Jeff. I don't know how much you've been following in some of the other threads. But I've been married for 30 years, and so 3 years, the last 3 years, my wife just checked out. She just wouldn't talk to me. I think one of the comments said, how do I get my wife to open up when she's tapped out and she won't even say good morning or good evening. She doesn't even respond. That's how my wife was for 3 years. I mean, she might give a one-word answer or so, but she just checked out. She just didn't want anything to do with me. We were still cordial. We dealt with the kids and business responsibilities of the home, but that's about it. I would just invite her out. I would invite her out to coffee. She would decline. Eventually, she started sleeping downstairs, and was staying down there. And so it gets a little frustrating after a while because you keep putting in the work and you keep showing up and you don't see, like you said, you don't see any changes, right? And so there was no change at all until 5 months ago, when I finally got really, really clear about what I wanted. And I went down into my wife's living room where she's been staying. And I just said, could we talk for a moment? And I said, I had hoped that we could spend the rest of our lives together. I had hoped that we could build a better version of our relationship. but I don't see a path forward for that. And so I'm pursuing a divorce. And a few conversations later of me really holding the bucket for her and letting her just fire her darts at me and all of the stuff that I did, which I'm guilty of. You know, not all of it. There was some of it that were stories that she created, but I just sat there and I owned it and I listened. I said, wow, that must have been really hard for you. And I held that bucket for her. And she said she never felt validated in the relationship until now. And so she's agreed to 2.0, and we've been on 2.0 now for the last 5 months. We're still early in the process, and it's not without its challenges, but it wasn't until I made that decision. Now, I don't recommend people just jumping to that. Okay, well, I'm just going to do that with my wife. I had to put in the work, right? If you just do that on a whim and impulsively, you're probably going to find yourself in a similar situation again somewhere.
Yeah, that's incredibly well said. That it's fantastic. Maybe a month for every year you've been together is an interesting measure to consider. A month for every year been together of this work for your own self. And to your exact point, I want to say that again. None of this can be a manipulation, and that's not what you were saying. It's you came to the point where you realized, all right, this is the path that I'm on. I'm growing my own self. I feel confident in my own masculinity. I know I want love and connection and intimacy. I've been inviting. You've been doing professional work for a long time, of course. And so, okay, this is where I'm coming to. I'd like to talk with her about it. Yeah. Is there anything that surprised you over the past 5 months in particular since that conversation? Yes, maybe that she's wanting 2.0. Maybe that was a surprise, but anything else in particular that surprised you?
Yeah, during the last 3 years, she was just really, really angry. I mean, just really angry. And that anger has disappeared. That anger's gone. She's sleeping in the room with me now. She's going out on dates with me now. And so it's all just a mystery to me.
Sure. Sure. Fantastic stuff. Thanks. I appreciate it. So Cynthia, some final words. What are you seeing from the men in this call today and the topic today? What else would you like to leave us with before we close out?
I found myself needing to continue to move a little bit when you were talking because your groundedness and your clarity and your peace is so captivating. I just felt myself just wanting to get really still in the space that you're holding. And then also feeling your heart at the same time. So that's the power I see in that's incredible power men have, you have who do this work. It it can really affect everyone around you with your stillness, with your kingly eye, and it's just a gravitational pull, that kind of grounded compassion, grounded heart, uh clarity. It just, yeah, blows me away. So thank you for sharing
Thank you.
your story.
Yeah, awesome stuff. Appreciate you guys here live. And if you're watching this recording, also you guys, yeah, there's a question in the chat. How long were you separated before 2.0? We'll have to talk about that another time. But yeah, you said about 3 years of this work, and I'd love to have you on again. We can talk more specifically about these things. Awesome.
Sure.
See you
Yeah.
guys next time. Thank you, Cynthia. Bye, guys.